Recent reports have indicated that the Suns are strongly leaning towards DeAndre Ayton, and I think that's a fine choice. There's nothing particularly wrong with picking him over Luka Doncic, but Doncic is just a better fit in the modern NBA. Look at the past few champions, the Warriors who have Steph and KD, the Cavs with LeBron and Kyrie, and then the Heat with LeBron and Wade. It's clear that you need to have multiple playmakers on the floor, and the Suns already have Devin Booker. I think Doncic would be a great fit alongside Booker. In his early years, he can play off the ball more, which he can do well with his ability to shoot. And then over time, he'll gradually grow into a more ball-dominant role alongside Booker. Doncic is just incredible at running the pick and roll. A lot of times what you'll see him do, LeBron does this a lot, is he'll run the pick and roll. He'll notice that the defense has rotated strongly to the ball side, so he'll just swing it all the way across the court to the weak side corner for an easy corner three. I think while his athleticism is subpar for an NBA level, his overall basketball IQ, intellect, and skill level makes up for it. Ultimately, Luka Doncic is the right choice for the #1 pick. And while Ayton likely has a higher upside, I think there is basically no chance that Doncic busts out of the league, as he's already proven himself against NBA level competition in the EuroLeague, which has many players who were in the NBA before or are in the NBA now playing in it. With Doncic off the board, Ayton seems like the likely choice here for the Sacramento Kings. Now, Ayton is just incredible. He's a 7-footer, incredibly strong, but he has the agility of a guard, and he's also very skilled offensively. He has a solid post-up game, a nice drop step, and he can even space the floor out and knock down some threes. And I think his shooting ability will probably improve once he joins an NBA team. Defensively, he does leave a lot to be desired. Considering his measurables, he should be a force on defense, but he's kind of lackluster. Only averaged around 2 blocks a game, which is surprisingly low for someone with his quickness and his length. But if I'm the Kings, that's not a big enough concern to not take him. So with the Hawks at #3, there's a lot of different directions they could go in. They could grab Marvin Bagley, they could get Michael Porter, but I think Bamba is the best choice here. So Bamba is never going to be a top 10 player in the league because he can't really create any offense for himself. However, his defensive ability is just insane. He's incredibly long. He has a 7'10" wingspan. He's very agile, very quick, and to top it all off, he has great defensive instincts. I think there's no doubt he's going to be an incredible shot blocker at the NBA level. He's also demonstrated some flashes of having a 3-point shot, which is always a benefit in the modern NBA. But I think he's a great fit for the Hawks, who had a bottom 10 defense in the NBA last year. They could potentially just turn that all around just with Bamba. So at #4 here, we have an interesting prospect, Marvin Bagley. Now, I think Bagley, personally for me, would not be top 5 prospect, but he happens to be a great fit on the Grizzlies, and I'll explain why. So the issue with Bagley is that on offense, his skill set is that of a traditional center. He's a great offensive rebounder, he can finish around the basket, but the issue is that on defense, he's not long enough or strong enough, and he doesn't have the instincts to be a rim protector. He needs to be on a team that has a center who can protect the rim and can also space the floor on offense, which gives him room to work in the paint. And the Grizzlies happen to have that with Marc Gasol. Bagley, he does have incredible upside. He's 6'10" and extremely agile. I think he's going to be impossible to stop in transition. He ultimately just makes the most sense for the Grizzlies. Ideally in this spot, the Mavs would want Bamba, but with Jaren Jackson, they can basically get 90% of what Bamba gives them. Like Bamba, Jackson will never be a top 10 player just because he can't create for himself, but his defensive ability combined with his floor spacing on offense is incredibly valuable in the modern NBA. He was 2nd in the nation in block rate. He's also very young. He's only 18, so he has a lot of time to grow, potentially expand his game, develop maybe a handle, maybe a post game. Although if he wants that, he's definitely going to need to bulk up a little. He's pretty skinny as of now, but I think his rim protection combined with his ability to shoot the outside shot is what the Mavericks need to improve their defense and kind of jumpstart a rebuild. Now with Michael Porter Jr., we don't really know how well he plays against high-level competition, considering that he was out all of last year. However, I think the Magic, they really just need a guy who can produce at a high level. Their last few picks have all been kind of eh. I think Porter, although we don't really know what to expect of him, we know he can shoot, he can score, but it's unclear how good of a defender he'll be, if he can rebound, potentially be a small ball 4, or if he'll have to play in the wing. But the Magic aren't really in any position to use those kind of criticisms as a reason not to take a player. Porter can develop as a ball handler. He really has no ceiling. Like, he can shoot, he's long. His issue right now is just that he's only an all-right ball handler, but if he can get to an A level with his handle, he could easily be a 30-point per game scorer. But at the same time, we don't know if he's even good enough to be a 10-point per game scorer because we didn't really get to see him in college. But I think the Magic, they really, even though it's a risk, they just need to get someone who could potentially give their franchise life. I think in most other drafts, Wendell Carter would probably be a top 3 to 4 pick. But in this draft, with all these extremely talented big men at the top, probably gonna fall pretty far. But the Bulls would be lucky to get him here because he fits perfectly around their existing talent. Wendell Carter can basically do everything that a big needs to do at a pretty high level. He can protect the rim, stretch the floor, switch on to perimeter players, and he even has a bit of a post game, which would fit very well alongside Lauri Markkanen, who is a supremely talented offensive big, but can't protect the rim to save his life. So Wendell Carter would allow them to keep their spacing, having 2 shooters as bigs, but then also give them some much needed defensive stability, and ultimately projects as a very safe pick. He's never going to be the best player in the league or a top 5 player, but see him kind of as an Al Horford type of player who is very solid at everything, doesn't do anything extremely well, but fills in the holes for your team. Now you may be surprised to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the first lead guard off the board, not counting Luka Doncic, but I think his skill set ultimately fits the Cavs pretty well, regardless of whether LeBron stays or leaves. Now the Cavs are just terrible defensively. They really need a guard who can play some defense, and Gilgeous-Alexander can definitely do that. He's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, which is just ridiculous for a point guard. And he doesn't have a great 3-point shot, but it's impossible to keep him out of the lane, which is almost as valuable a skill to me as outside shooting. And I think Trae Young could be in the mix here, but again, his lack of defense for a team that's already terrible defensively is just kind of scary. And I think Gilgeous-Alexander is a great fit for this Cavs team, whether LeBron leaves or LeBron stays. So with the Knicks, their biggest need is guard scoring. So if you need guard scoring, why not take the most exciting guard in all of college basketball, Trae Young. You all know what he can do. He's an incredible shooter, a very good passer, but he is turnover prone, and his defense is pretty terrible. However, that works out pretty well because the Knicks have Frank Ntilikina, who can cover for Trae Young defensively, possibly take some ball handling duties away from Trae Young if he's dealing with too much pressure. And I think this is just a great fit overall. And the Knicks can start to build a core around Trae Young, Ntilikina, Kristaps Porzingis, and whoever else they can get. And finally, the 76ers get basically a perfect fit for them in Mikal Bridges. Bridges could definitely go sooner. He could go to the Cavs, could go even to the Knicks. But if he falls here, this is definitely the pick for the Sixers. Bridges isn't really a great shot creator. His handle is all right, but not really good enough to create at the NBA level. But he's an incredible 3-point shooter. Also an incredible defender. Very long, very quick, and extremely intelligent defensively. He always makes correct rotations, and the Sixers, they really have this brand of just having all these 3-and-D guys around Simmons, which I think is the right thing to do, and I think Bridges fits that perfectly.